Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Our program will begin in 10 minutes.
תרקוד, היא אמרה לי תרקוד, הברושים לא ידעו אם לצחוק או לבכות, תרקוד כל עוד אתה יכול, אני לא בנוי לשיעור מוחות. ראשה הצעיר על ראשי, לא תמצא כבר בעיר כאלה ברושים, תאהב כל עוד אתה מתאים, אגב היא אמרה לי תאהב אותי. עד היום די מוזר, לא הבנתי דבר, זה גילה המוקדם או גילי המאוחר. עד היום בסביבו 5:30 צל נופל מצמרות הברושים, היא אומרת עזוב, זו שקיעה שכזאת, תרקוד, היא אמרה לי תרקוד, הברושים בשמיים, אנחנו עוד פה, תרקוד מבלי להיעצר, אנחנו מפה לא נוכל לצאת. עד היום די מוזר, לא הבנתי דבר, זה גילה המוקדם או גילי המאוחר. עד היום בסביבו 5:30 צל נופל מצמרות הברושים, היא אומרת עזוב, זו שקיעה שכזאת. מותר לאבד את הראש, בגילה גם אני נגעתי בברוש, מוטב לרקוד חצי דקה, מוטב מאשר לאבד אותה. עד היום די מוזר, לא הבנתי דבר, זה גילה המוקדם או גילי המאוחר. עד היום בסביבו 5:30 צל נופל מצמרות הברושים, היא אומרת עזוב, זו שקיעה שכזאת. עכשיו בין ברושים אחדים, זה אני שרוקד די לבדי.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a courtesy to our speakers, flash photography is prohibited. Please turn off your cell phones and take your seats. Our program will begin in 5 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Our program will begin in 1 minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, our program will now begin. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage, Frank Sesno.
Thank you very much. Welcome back to your afternoon session. I'm delighted to be with you. I also want to issue one piece of very useful information, having been out there myself. It is icy and nasty outside. So when you walk, walk very carefully. Please. Our conversation now turns to something that is of great interest, really around the world. The United States and Israel both have a very strong and committed concern for national security. They cooperate in many ways, as you know, to safeguard their citizens. Now, we have an opportunity to hear from two former national security advisors who've had this as part of their job description. They are from both countries, and they can talk about how this partnership manifests itself at the highest levels of government, and how fascinating it will be to hear this, given the issues and the concerns that they confront today. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming former National Security Advisor to the Obama administration, Tom Donilon, and former head of Israel's National Security Council, Yaakov Amidror. Welcome.
Hey.
Please join me, Tom.
Right.
Well, gentlemen, welcome, and thank you for joining us. Let's jump right into this if we can, which is the best way to jump, I think. A lot of noise, a lot of issues, a lot of tension. I want to ask you about the state of the U.S.-Israel relationship, which you've both worked on. But I want to ask it from sort of a personal perspective, because the two of you helped to drive that, and how your relationship when you were there helped to define it. Tom?
Well, thank you. First, it's great to be here today at AIPAC and with General Amidror and you. Let me say a couple of things about that. The General and I were counterparts. He was National Security Advisor for Prime Minister Netanyahu, I to President Obama. The first thing is I knew I was lucky. I was lucky because I had such a terrific counterpart. Obviously, General Amidror is one of the great officers and thinkers in Israel, and also really a man of incredible integrity and great personal role, and we knew that.
You were working person to person. The two of you
Absolutely,
were direct interlocutors.
Yeah, and I'll describe that in just about 10 seconds, right? So the relationship, though, was always against the backdrop of the bedrock principle that the United States would support Israel's security. And that was for a lot of different reasons, right? Our history, our shared values, shared objectives. But the interaction that we had personally, I think, was important. One is that we always endeavored to determine what was driving the other side's positions, to understand where the other side was coming from, and to be really quite precise about that. Second, we always sought to share information down through our system, and it came from us to share that information. Third, where there was a complicated issue, like Iran, we set up a mechanism, a structure to deal with that in depth, and we did deal with it in depth on a regular basis. And not for an hour or 2 hours, but regular meetings of 8 and 10 hours to go through all the various elements of it. Next is that we did have a very good personal relationship, and there was personal communication on a regular basis. It was intensive communication. It was on a secure phone on his desk and my desk.
How often did you talk? How often?
Oh, every other week or so, and sometimes every day, depending on what the issue was. And at least from my perspective, I always felt comfortable if I hung up the phone and probably drove General Amidror a little crazy. Sometimes I call him back and say, I want to go over this one more time. And last is if there was a disagreement, and it's going to be inevitable there's going to be disagreements and some conflict in position, given the two positions that the United States and Israel occupy, to confront those disagreements honestly and not to let things fester.
What's your take?
I think that Yeah, I was lucky that Tom was here. He's very professional, he's very honest, he's very fair. And I think that the secret of these relations were that I was not a diplomat and he was not a diplomat. So we spoke very...
We'll pass that on to all the diplomats.
In some occasions, very blunt, and there are no mistakes what our views after such a conversation. But in the whole almost 2.5 years that we worked together, nothing was leaked, not even one word. And I think it's very important in such relations to keep the issues between us. And we had an habit that, I thank Tom for that at the end of any 2 days of big conversation with a group of professionals, he invited me to a dinner in which we didn't eat anything. We just speak between us for 2 or 3 hours. And at the end, everything was clear. Even the disagreements were very clear and very defined. And nothing came out of those conversations but to our 2 bosses.
So let me ask you, we don't have 2 or 3 hours now. We have a few minutes. You can be very clear and we'll settle everything in this amount of time. The Iran issue is front and center. There are tactical and strategic differences, as we know. I'm interested in how you both feel this strong relationship that you've talked about sails its way through this, what your take is, where it's going, Tom.
Okay, thank you. The first point, I think, is critical, and that is, as a strategic matter, the United States and Israel share the same goal, and that is to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. And as the general knows, and it's unalterable, it is in the national security interest of both Israel and the United States. We in the United States have put a tremendous amount of effort into this, and as the general knows, I personally oversaw our pressure effort for 4.5 years, whether it be on sanctions or political pressure, or putting in place the military assets in the region to make sure that the statement that all options are on the table was an accurate statement and could be implemented, first point. Second is that it's a complicated negotiation with a lot of different elements to it. And at the end of the day, again, I do think it's important for the United States to take into account the position of Israel, and will. And I think the way to go on this is to engage directly and honestly with respect to the substance, to the merits of the matter. I think in the last week or so, I think we've been distracted by unnecessary controversy, I think. The real issue here is the substance of this agreement. And there are real questions that have to be worked through, particularly on duration and on Iran's history, what the best method is here to cut off their various paths towards a nuclear weapon, how best to make sure we have time, and how best to make sure that we, for a long, long time, have the ability to keep eyes on Iran, because I think the most serious threat with respect to Iran is most likely a covert attempt to have a nuclear weapon.
Jacob, how do these 2 countries work through their differences?
First of all, it's understood why there are differences. And when you look at the problem from Jerusalem point of view, it's a threat to the existence of the State of Israel. If you look at it from the Washington point of view, it's a huge issue, but not a threat to the existence of the United States of America. So we are more sensitive in Jerusalem than in Washington. It is well understood. You cannot change it. This is the essence of geopolitics, when something is judged by American interests and something judged by Israel interests, and the sensitivities of Israel are different than those of the Americans. It's Dutch nature that this is the nature of the world, that will be differences. What was important is that I tried to understand what motivated the Americans, and I try as much as possible to explain to Tom what motivated us, and to be sure that the concerns of Israel will be taken in those negotiations. Somewhere in the middle, I don't know when, instead of being very precise, of being dismantling Iran from its capabilities, it became negotiations about monitoring these capabilities. And this is a huge difference.
It's a huge difference.
It's a huge difference. From our point of view, from our point of view, the issue is how you dismantle the ability of the Iranians to make a bomb. What we see, and I'm not familiar with the details, and it's just at the middle of the negotiations, and I'm not familiar with behind the curtains what's going on about that, but what was published give us the feeling that at the end of the day, It's about monitoring, not about dismantling. And I think it's very important that to understand why the difference emerged, to different point of view, and what changed during the negotiations which led to this friction of today. But at the end of the day, I think that if both countries, United States of America and Israel, will be united on this issue, the achievements in the negotiations and after the negotiation will be much, much better than in another situation.
Yeah. Well, I think that's fair. A couple of points is that, again, and the negotiation is ongoing, and we don't know what the outcomes are going to be with respect to the specifics, as General said. But there are going to have to be constraints on any capability that Iran has, serious constraints with respect to their ability to pursue any number of paths that they might have towards acquiring a nuclear weapon. There is going to have to be an intensive inspection, monitoring, and verification regime to ensure that the international community, including the United States, can act if, in fact, Iran doesn't keep the deal or goes in a direction which is not allowed by the deal. And I do think it's very important, as I said earlier, for us to engage between the United States and Israel with respect to the merits here. Now, I will say one thing, and ending on this portion, which is that the interim understanding that we've had, the interim deal that we've had, has actually been a pretty sound basis on which to have these negotiations. It has, in fact, frozen the program. It has rolled back the 20% enriched uranium portion of the program, and it has given us unprecedented inspections and insight into the whole chain there. And that's an important point, and I think is important in terms of judging where we might go in terms of the United States efforts here.
We will see where the nuclear talks go, but there's so much more to the Iranian presence in the region, obviously. Their support for Hezbollah and Hamas. They're working throughout the region, as many believe, to destabilize other countries and regimes, and some worry about a broader proxy war. I'm wondering whether, as you look and put this into perspective at Iran, longer term, you see any prospect that there could be a potential ally or stabilizing force, or whether this Iran is a long-term problem no matter what.
I don't know, 50 years from now, I don't know what will happen. But
Let's do 5 years.
Yes, Iran as it is today is a force of instability in the Middle East. The whole ideology, the whole DNA of this Muslim Republican state is two messages. First, we the Shiites want to win at the end of the day, and we will not let to oppress us in the future as it was done in the past. And in any place in which there is, when there are both Shiites and Sunnis, we will prevail. And today they did it. They have now, as was explained by them a month ago, they have influence, or more than influence, in 4 Arab capitals, in Sana'a, in Baghdad, in Damascus, and in Beirut. It never happened in history. So if someone believes that they will become stabilized force in the area, it does not understand the DNA of this regime. The second message is that we, the Islamists, we the clerics, can run a state. And this is a strong message to the Middle East. This is the basis of all these extremist radical movements. Yes, Islam, hu al-hal. Islam is the solution. There are some versions, what Islam, how Islam, what, and they are ready to kill each other about the question, what Islam? But they agree that Islam is the solution. If someone don't understand that this is the DNA of this regime, it does not understand the Middle East. Yeah. So to build any perspective of stability in the Middle East on the Iranians is like to build very good palaces on ice. At the end of the day, the sun will be there and the ice disappeared.
Yeah, I really can't disagree with General's fundamental analysis. The negotiation with respect to the nuclear program is about the nuclear program. It is about an effort to address and try to prevent them from engaging in a specific activity, the pursuit of a nuclear weapon. Critically important, but only one piece. Iran is a very strong force for instability in the Middle East and continues to be so.
And you don't see that changing with the new government and the rising demographic and the unpopularity of
the current government, right? And I don't see it changing in the short term, frankly. As General said, we have seen throughout the Middle East, Iran continue to be a force for instability and a threat to the United States and to Israel.
Gentlemen, there are only a couple of minutes that we have left. I want to ask you the big picture question. As you look around the region and you see, take the big picture, what are the biggest threats that you see, the biggest trends that you see over the next 5, 10 years?
In the Middle East.
In the Middle East.
In the Middle East, yeah. Well, the first is we do need to address the Iranian nuclear program. Right. It presents a threat to the region, a threat to Israel, a threat to the global proliferation regime, and it needs to be addressed, and we need to do everything we can to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. Second, we have an unprecedented series of terrorist vectors, if you will, terrorist threats that have emerged in the Middle East, including, and I say unprecedented decidedly, very consciously, this ISIS threat that we have in the Middle East that's emerged is in fact an unprecedented kind of organization. A large organization of scale, tens of thousands of people. Maybe our intelligence community has said publicly in congressional testimony now, 20,000 foreign fighters. The pace of foreign fighters, 20,000. The pace of foreign fighters coming into the Iraq-Syria theater has not slowed down. Some 3,000 or 4,000 of those have Western passports. It's a well-financed organization, and it presents a real threat, I think. So, but you have that. You have AQAP, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula and Yemen. You have various Al-Qaeda organizations in Syria, and still the Al-Qaeda organization in South Asia. You have organizations in North Africa, and you have, because of social media and technology, you have the ability to radicalize individuals and small groups around the world. This is a new phase in the terror threat, and one that will be with us for a long time.
Echo very briefly, if you could, because we're almost out.
I agree with Tom about the basic assumption, but from the point of view of Israel, nuclear Iran is a different league. It is not in the same level to all the other threats. And on the second league is all these organizations which exploit the no man's land areas around the state of Israel. Either it is in the Golan Heights or in the Sinai, and for sure the biggest non-state organization which held 1,000 rockets and missiles is Hezbollah. It's an extension of Iran. It will be used by Iran in the future as it was used in the past. And if you combine both of them, this is the main threat on Israel.
And you get a sense here in this conversation of what those 2 or 3 hour dinners were like.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we don't have 2 or 3 hours, but we got a good sense from both of you just now. I want to thank you both. And, of course, we'll be watching these negotiations and all the rest you told us to watch very closely. Yaakov, Tom, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I joke that I'm the founding and only member of the progressive, liberal, democratic, religious sitcom writer Jews for Israel. Wait, what was that? My religious friends say, how could you work in Hollywood? And my Hollywood friends say, how could you be religious? And that's kind of the balancing act I've been doing. I grew up on Long Island, and I grew up in a tiny town in the South Shore. There were only 6 Jews, and I grew up actually with a lot of anti-Semitism. I was picked on. I had swastikas carved into my locker, and I've gotten into a lot of fights. I remember one of the turning points in my life, the baseball team had handed out buttons that said "Students for Hitler," and the coaches let it happen. This is not in the 50s. This is like the late 70s, early 80s, in town in South Long Island. I think it was a defining part of my growing up. Talk about like conflicts and contrasts in my life. I was an investment banker by day, and at night I did stand-up comedy, and that was my true love. I actually won a contest called Funniest Man on Wall Street, which is like, the best Jewish high jumper. It's not that big a competition, but I won it. I had a partner at the time, a writing partner, who was in advertising, and he asked me, do you want to write a script together? It was great for my soul, and it wasn't like a spiritual thing. It was like, wow, this is really what I meant to be doing. And I moved out to California, and I went from being an investment banker to delivering sandwiches, literally the next day. There were 2 shows I wanted to work on. One was called Blue Skies, and I was like, please, I know this show is going to be a hit. please, God, let me get on blue skies. And I did not get on blue skies. And I got on a show called Friends, and that was a trajectory that it changed my life forever. The show I was working on got canceled, and then my wife said, why don't you go to Israel? And what she was saying was, get out of the house, you're driving me nuts. And I wound up going to Israel, and I just, it's all the cliches, it's just coming home. For me, as somebody with a very liberal soul, I was blown away because it is so culturally diverse. In LA, you stay in your car the entire time. You rarely get to see people who are different than you. In Israel, it's just such a melting pot, and it's so wonderful. And I remember the following year, I brought my wife back, and we go every other year now with my kids. And it just got me so interested in Israel and Israel advocacy. I'm running a show now for Warner Brothers. Head of Warner Horizon Studios came up to me, and it was just during the war in Gaza, the last war. And she said, what do? I don't know what to do about Israel. And I said, if you love Israel, you're in AIPAC. And I don't care who the government of Israel is. I don't care who the government here is. We need to support Israel. She immediately got so fired up about it. 2 weeks later, she winds up having a parlor meeting in her house with like 50 people. From like the highest level people and lawyers and agents and studio executives and people who were hearing about AIPAC for the first time. Growing up, I felt very, very alone. When you go to AIPAC and you see all these people, it's like, oh my God, I can open up. I can like really advocate for Israel. It doesn't matter if you're left or right or in the center, and it's really empowering. As a storyteller, you're trying to write a happy ending. For me, AIPAC is that. It's a feeling that you're not alone.
Ladies and gentlemen, AIPAC activist Jeff Astroff. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome AIPAC President Bob Cohen.
Good evening. Good evening and welcome to the largest policy conference in AIPAC history. We have more than 16,000 delegates gathered here in our nation's capital to deliver this message. A strong U.S.-Israel relationship makes America, Israel, and our world a safer place. Each of you made the decision to be here in Washington because you understand this historic moment. You are here to urge our decision makers to focus on this fact that America and Israel need each other now more than ever. We need each other to face the growing instability of the Middle East. We need each other to effectively deal with the threat posed by radical Islam. And we need each other to face the challenge of Iran. But not only that, we need each other to share great ideas in science, technology, and education to make the world a better place. So on behalf of my colleagues on the AIPAC Board of Directors, I want to say thank you. Thank you for standing up, for being exceptional citizens, for investing in our cause to help keep America and Israel strong and secure. As I look out across this hall, filled to capacity, I am encouraged, not just by the sheer volume of numbers, but by who is represented here. Democrats and Republicans from all 50 states here to demonstrate bipartisan support for a strong U.S.-Israel relationship. That's right. Bipartisanship, a fundamental principle of our organization. There are 500 rabbis and religious leaders who are guiding their congregations, not only in prayer, but in the sacred work of helping to heal our world. Hundreds from the African American, Hispanic, and Christian communities. That's right. And so many others who know that when we strengthen Israel, we are strengthening America as well. And in honor of the veterans and men and women in uniform who are with us today, please join me as we thank them for being here and for their service to the United States of America. Here with us today are leaders from across the pro-Israel community, including the National Director of the Anti-Defamation League, its remarkable leader, Abe Foxman. Abe, AIPAC has been honored to work with you, and as you approach retirement, we want to thank you for your leadership in helping to foster a strong U.S.-Israel relationship and for being such a valuable partner in AIPAC's work. Thank you, Abe. From one generation to the next, in this room today are more than 3,000 high school and college students and I want to welcome the more than 300 Geller student government presidents from all 50 states who are here with us. This has been an especially challenging year for the pro-Israel community on college campuses. As both the president of this organization and as a fellow activist, I want to say to the students, thank you. You inspire us. Among us are thousands of AIPAC club members, Partners for Tomorrow, and congressional club members who are working to keep AIPAC strong today and tomorrow. Among you are more than 6,000 delegates who are attending the policy conference for the very first time. That's right. By choosing to be counted, by making the decision to be an actor, not merely a witness to history, each of you will have an impact on conversations that will shape the future of two great democracies for years to come. Our presence here in the capital of the most powerful nation in the world sends another message as well. It is a response to those who question Israel's right to exist. It is a response to the rising tide of anti-Semitism, anti-Western, anti-Israeli, and anti-American sentiments. It is a response to those who challenge the seriousness by which we hold the words, "Never again." These past weeks, we all watched in horror the attacks in Paris and Copenhagen. Today, we are honored to personally welcome leaders from numerous European Jewish communities. And it is my special privilege to welcome a leader of the French Jewish community, Roger Kuckerman. To you and all our brothers and sisters in Europe, we stand together as one family. We are one very diverse family. I am truly honored to lead an organization that includes activists like the Reverend Eve Nunez, Bud Hockenberg, and the mayor of Columbia, South Carolina, Steve Benjamin. Their backgrounds couldn't be more different, but their passion for Israel couldn't be more aligned. Reverend Nunez brought with her to Policy Conference this year 20 other Hispanic evangelical delegates from churches throughout Nevada and Arizona. Now, Bud is from Des Moines, Iowa. His first policy conference was in 1968, when only 500 people were in attendance. 500 people. That's right, there were 500 people in line for coffee this morning. Incredibly, Bud, a former AIPAC board member, has attended 48 consecutive AIPAC policy conferences. On the other hand, Mayor Benjamin, Steve, wasn't even born when Bud attended that first gathering. Last December, when Congress passed the U.S.-Israel Strategic Partnership Act, Steve wrote a letter to his member of Congress and to the chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus, thanking them for their support. But he didn't stop there. He encouraged 111 additional African Americans to co-sign the letter, CCing their own member of Congress and sending a powerful pro-Israel message from the African American community to our country's African American leaders. And the incredible additional detail here, all 111 co-signers had previously been on a trip to Israel with AIPAC's Education Foundation. Indeed, AIPAC is a big tent, home to a diverse array of opinions, political views, races, and religions. This type of diversity is what makes us strong. To that end, I want to thank my dear friend, AIPAC's chairman of the board, Michael Kasson. My colleagues on the AIPAC board of directors, as well as CEO Howard Kaur and Vice CEO Richard Fishman. They continue to lead with creativity and vision. And I know everyone joins me in thanking the entire AIPAC staff for their hard work and dedication throughout the year. Strong leadership is what makes AIPAC so effective. And so it is my distinct honor to introduce an extraordinary leader who was selected by AIPAC's board of directors to be our next president. Ladies and gentlemen, from Dallas, Texas, my friend, AIPAC President-elect Lillian Pincus. If you've had the good fortune to meet Lillian, you know why everyone admires her wisdom and commitment. Lillian will formally become AIPAC president at next year's policy conference. To Lillian, John, and the whole family, Mazel Tov. And while I'm talking about family, I want to thank my wife, Louise, and my children, Sarah, Jake, and David, for their incredible ongoing support. Simply put, I could not do this without you. Louise and I have been to Israel countless times. And each time we return, we are inspired by the people. In the town of Sderot, 370 Hamas rockets have fallen just since the last time we all gathered here. A gentleman who serves as that community's youth organizer recently gave some college students a tour of his town. He asked the visitors, "What do you think is the first thing that the citizens of Sderot do when the sirens go off, signaling incoming rockets in the area?" What is the first thing you think they do? One student immediately answered, "They run to the shelters." Another said, "They grab their kids." No to both answers. What is the first thing that the residents of Sderot instinctively do when they are told they only have 15 seconds to save themselves and their children from incoming rockets? What do? They open their doors. First, they open their doors so that anyone outside has a way to find shelter. They open their doors. This is the instinct of Israelis facing danger, to help others. This is the response of a nation under constant threat to feed, to heal, to help, to protect, to build and nurture, to invent and reinvent, to give to the world. They open their doors. And so do we. We open our doors to include Americans of every faith and creed and political party, because only together can we help make America and Israel safe. Thank you.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking.
The sounds and images from 1965 remind us of the friendship between the Jewish and African American communities during the Civil Rights Movement, when our Jewish brothers and sisters and others from so many faiths answered Dr. King's call. Together, they joined hands and walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, in support of full voting rights for African Americans. As a young girl, I lived in Selma, and I rode across that historic bridge almost daily. My mother participated in the movement, and my aunt marched alongside Dr. King on the bridge that day. They both grew up in Selma. For my mother, her activism inspired my activism. She would often say to me, "Always stand with those who stood with us." The Jews were there for us, and they never wavered. Friendship, courage, commitment. These are the characteristics that I was taught to value. These are the qualities that I want to pass down to my own daughter. And these are the values which compelled me, just 3 years ago, to become a club member and to proudly serve on the AIPAC National Council. Today, I stand with those who support Israel, as I know they've stood with me.
Now, it is my turn to stand up for justice. Those were my thoughts in 2008 when I authored legislation making the city of Atlanta the first city in the United States to divest from companies with ties to Iran or Sudan. Atlanta has a storied civil rights tradition, and I could not support those whose leaders would harm the innocent. The legislation reminded me of the power of nonviolent action in the tradition of the men and women who walked over that bridge in Selma nearly 50 years ago this very month. Then and now, a brighter future is up to us. I believe this not just as an elected leader working hard every day to create a better society, but as the father of 2 daughters who, like so many children around the world, deserve the promise of peace and security.
I was born just a few months after the assassination of Dr. King. My parents made sure I understood the struggles of our people so that I would not only be able to vote, but engage in political organizing and activism at the highest levels. When my daughter was 8 years old, we went to Selma, and we walked over the bridge. Then I took her to Birmingham, and we visited the 16th Street Baptist Church, where 4 little girls were killed simply because they were black. My heart ached as I watched her grapple with these hard truths. But then I reassured her that in our time of need, we stayed strong. And there were good people who risked everything, who did the right thing, and who stood by our side. Years later, when Rashida and I traveled with AIPAC's Education Foundation to Israel and stood inside the Yad Vashem Memorial, the realities of that history truly shook my soul. How could the world have been silent in the face of such utter evil? As I reflected on what both of our communities have endured, I recognized once more the importance of our mutual cooperation and the moral force we create when we join hands to make this world a better place.
Selma not only gave full voting rights to Black Americans, Selma allowed all of us to fully participate in the political system, to stand up for the causes that we hold close, to fight against injustice and hatred, and to stand together in support of a strong and a safe Israel.
In Selma, we were not alone. We had one another. We marched as one. And so today, half a century later, we come together for the AIPAC Policy Conference, knowing there is much work to do to make our world safe and fair and whole.
And just like in Selma, we can only reach the other side when we march together, when we work together, when we pray together, and when we are as one, united. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For more than 50 years, pro-Israel Americans from across the United States have gathered in our nation's capital at the AIPAC Policy Conference to hear presidents and prime ministers, to learn from top experts, and to expand the broad tent of America's pro-Israel community. But most important, AIPAC members come to Washington each year to shape policy on Capitol Hill. At Policy Conference, empowered pro-Israel activists participate directly in the American political process by engaging members of Congress on the issues that matter most to the U.S.-Israel relationship. This year, you will help continue this powerful tradition. On Lobbying Day, you will join thousands of AIPAC activists on Capitol Hill to educate, inspire, and foster personal relationships with your senators and representatives. You will soon take part in one of the most important days of the year to help shape the future of the United States and Israel.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome AIPAC Directors of Policy and Government Affairs, Marvin Foyer and Brad Gordon, and Director of Legislative Strategy, Esther Kurtz.
Good evening. Whether this is your first policy conference or your 33rd like mine, you're here because you understand the importance of this moment. You know the importance of Tuesday, of walking up to Capitol Hill by the thousands to stand united with Israel.
For many years, AIPAC's lobbying agenda at Policy Conference has included three core issues: securing foreign aid to Israel, supporting Israel's peace efforts, and stopping Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons. But you also know that this year is different.
We are at a critical moment. For the last 15 months, the United States has led talks between a key group of countries and Iran to end Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons. We've seen the deadline of negotiations extended twice. We've seen America make every effort to resolve this issue peacefully. And we've seen Iran refuse to waver on its dangerous nuclear program. So while we will continue to lobby on many important issues to strengthen the U.S.-Israel relationship, on Tuesday we will urge Congress to take immediate action on just one: stopping Iran. When we go to the Hill on Tuesday, we will stress the urgency of the Iranian nuclear issue, and we will ask Congress, first, to support diplomacy by increasing economic pressure on Iran. Second, to insist on a good agreement, one that truly prevents Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapons capability. And third, to play a key role in reviewing any agreement.
In order to make this case, it's important to understand how we got here. For the last 25 years, AIPAC has worked with many administrations and Congresses to peacefully resolve the Iranian nuclear challenge. Thanks to your commitment, Congress has remained focused on this work. And the sanctions Congress passed over the last 25 years created the pressure that brought Iran to the negotiating table.
But today, after 15 months of negotiations, that pressure has not yet forced Iran to abandon its nuclear weapons program. And reports on the negotiations suggest Iran has yet to make the concessions necessary to reach an acceptable agreement. Our 25-year effort to stop Iran's race to a bomb has reached a critical crossroads. Congress must again play a pivotal role, and so must you.
So, how do we do this? It starts with our first message to Congress: support diplomacy by increasing pressure. We believe negotiations have the best chance to succeed if Iran understands the economic and political price it will pay for refusing to abandon its nuclear ambitions. And the best way for Congress to convey this message to Iran is by passing the Nuclear Weapon-Free Iran Act of 2015. This bipartisan legislation would impose tough sanctions on Iran if it refuses to give up its nuclear weapons quest. And it would give important flexibility to the president to waive these new sanctions for brief periods if he certifies an agreement is within reach. Now, on Tuesday, you might get some pushback from the Hill. You might hear this bill will cause Iran to walk away from the table. It will violate the interim agreement, or even it will lead us to war. But the point you need to make to Congress and to the world is that the status quo is unacceptable. This legislation supports negotiations and abides by the terms of the interim agreement. It sends a clear message to Iran that further extensions of negotiations are not an option. And it adds pressure on Iran to get to a good deal. Look, failure to reach an acceptable agreement may leave the United States with the choice of either accommodating a nuclear Iran or using force to prevent it. This bill gives diplomacy the best chance to succeed in order to avoid that dilemma.
This brings us to our second message for Congress: insist on a good agreement. Since the interim agreement, Congress has clearly outlined the acceptable terms of a final deal. In fact, after you lobbied at AIPAC's policy conference last year, 395 House members and 83 senators declared that any deal must force Iran to dismantle its program so that it has no uranium or plutonium path to a bomb. And we've been outspoken over the past 15 months about 6 key conditions that must be met in a final deal. But Iran appears unwilling to yield on these requirements, which would prove its program is only for peaceful purposes. If the reports are true, Iran is forcing the negotiations down a very dangerous path, one that would likely threaten Iran's neighbors and prompt their own nuclear activities, and a path that, instead of eliminating Iran's ability to make the world's deadliest weapons, might actually enable it. On Tuesday, when you visit the House, you will ask your representatives to sign a letter co-authored by Congressman Rice and Engel, which does several things. First, it lays out the elements of a good deal. It reiterates the important role of Congress, and it highlights Iran's destructive regional activities. You will voice your concerns and ask members to be ready to reject a bad deal.
This brings us to our third message for the Hill, the importance of Congress's role. On a matter as critical as the Iranian nuclear issue, Congress simply must have a say. Congress has played a vital role in bringing Iran to the table. Today, it must have a voice in the process, and it must have a say in any deal before it is implemented. On Tuesday, you will ask your senators to ensure Congress's voice is heard. You will ask them to co-sponsor the Corker-Menendez bill, the Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act of 2015, introduced by 12 senators just this past Friday. This key piece of legislation will require the administration to submit any agreement with Iran to Congress, and it will give Congress the opportunity to vote to disapprove a bad deal.
So, support diplomacy with pressure.
Insist on a good agreement.
And ensure Congress reviews any deal.
This is our path forward. This is our path to preserving the safety of the United States and Israel. And this is your message on Tuesday. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former AIPAC President David Victor.
Good evening. Okay, you may recall that at the Academy Awards, at some point, a representative of the Academy came out on stage and explained the bylaws to the audience. Okay, apparently I'm that guy. And someone had an Oscar backstage, so here we go. So here's what you don't realize, most of you probably not. According to AIPAC's bylaws, you are all members of AIPAC's General Assembly. You're members by virtue of the fact that you're members of AIPAC in good standing, and because you're here at Policy Conference. So, as National Assembly members, we are seeking your acclamation on 2 issues. We're seeking your ratification of AIPAC's action principles and your renomination of an AIPAC National Board member, okay? So first, AIPAC action principles. On the screens, on the innumerable screens, you will see the action principles being recommended to you by AIPAC's National Council. So if I could ask you to take a moment now to read them, please. Thank you. Now, could I ask all those in favor of affirming AIPAC's action principles, please say aye. All those against say nay. Ooh, it's tight. Ayes have it. Okay, next. It's per the bylaws, the General Assembly's distinct responsibility to renominate a member of AIPAC's National Board. The board recommends for your consideration AIPAC National Board member Dr. Anita Friedman of San Francisco, California. Yeah, she deserves it, actually. So again, all those in favor of Dr. Anita Friedman's renomination to AIPAC's National Board, please say aye. I'm nervous here. Those against, say nay. Congratulations, Anita. Renominated. So that's it, we're done. And at this point, I'd just like to say thank you. I'd like to thank my wife, my manager, thank my agent. I'm getting the wrap-up cue here. To my kids, I'd just like to say that okay, all right.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome House Democratic Whip Steny Hoyer and House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy.
As all of you know, Democrats and Republicans don't always agree. But when it comes to the safety and security of Israel, we will stand together.
Bound by the principles of freedom and democracy, our partnership with Israel has spanned 6 decades.
As legislators and as Americans, we understand the importance of the United States-Israel alliance.
This past fall, Congress approved landmark legislation declaring Israel a major strategic partner. It laid the foundation for expanded cooperation in defense, intelligence, homeland security, energy, water, and agriculture. The legislation cements the partnership between our two great nations.
Last summer, when Israel faced unrelenting rocket attacks from Hamas, Congress stood by Israel's side. The House unanimously passed a resolution condemning Hamas and supporting Israel's right to defend its citizens. And Congress approved an additional $225 million in emergency funding for Iron Dome.
There is no greater responsibility a nation has to its people than the protection of its citizens. Through missile defense programs like Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow, the United States and Israel are providing the security to the people of the Jewish state. It is also why, after last year's AIPAC policy conference, 395 members of the House signed on to a letter led by Steny Hoyer and my dear friend and mentor, Eric Cantor, outlining the necessary terms for a final agreement with Iran and its nuclear program, and raising concerns about Iran's support for terrorism, its effort to promote instability in the region, and its ballistic missile programs. The United States remains committed to the security of the Israeli people. We believe the U.S. should work tirelessly alongside the State of Israel to ensure Iran does not attain a nuclear weapons capability and bring peace and stability to the region.
As Americans, Kevin and I both believe in the values of revival and renewal. It is why we travel to Israel so often and why we commit ourselves to bringing our colleagues to Israel every 2 years. In fact, Kevin and I are honored to be the senior members traveling with delegations of House Democrats and Republicans to Israel this summer. It is that same need for renewal that I believe compels so many of you to make this trip to Washington every year. Thank you for doing that.
In an increasingly unstable world where Christians and Jews and moderates and minorities are both singled out of targets of the worst act of barbarism and violence, the alliance between two of the world's greatest democracies is more critical than ever.
There has also never been, as I'm sure you agree, a more critical time for that alliance to remain strong and bipartisan.
And so we ask you to continue to work to build relationship with your members of Congress, to continue to stand up for Israel and the U.S.-Israeli relationship.
Thank you. Thank you, AIPAC, for your friendship, but more importantly, for your work and leadership. May God bless Israel and the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the host of the Israeli Innovation Showcase, Brian Abrahams.
Thank you. Thank you. Today, we're going to give you a different twist on innovation. Instead of looking at just gadgets and their wiring, we're going to look at the wiring of the innovators themselves. Try to understand more about how they think, why they do what they do, what is in their background that led them to become innovators. And so we can better answer the question of why, when you think of innovation, this is Israel. Our first innovator works 24/7 trying to get more intelligence about the last Wild West part of our planet, the high seas. Please welcome to the stage Ami Daniel of Windward. Welcome to AIPAC, Ami.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, you can stand closer, I won't bite. So, what is the mission of Windward?
You've probably heard about this, but 3/4 of the world's Earth is covered by water. 90% of world trade is transported by sea.
But until now, nobody, no government, no company knew what is going on there. What we do, we analyze and organize the world's maritime data.
So there is data out there. It's not that there's no data.
There's a lots of data. First of all, remember, every ship, like an airplane, has a pinger transmitting its own identity to satellites and to everybody. So first of all, we pick these transmissions. We pick up port agent reports. We pick up ship bookings, like Uber, and all that information. It's vast, hundreds of millions of data points per day. But it's also fragmented, no one protocol, and worst of all, Brian, it's manipulated. Since there's no centralized vetting mechanism, everybody can decide to say whatever they want about themselves.
So a giant ship can pretend to be a different giant ship?
Yeah, exactly.
How?
They can just punch in a technician code and decide to change identity, name, cargo, destination. Today, 1% of the world ship transmit a false identity. That's like me coming in through JFK, brushing elbows with 1,000 people with false passports. That's staggering.
Okay, so I think you brought us an example of that. Lauren, can we put up, we have an image, so explain to us what we're looking at.
Sure. So this is a real story you see right now on the screen, Brian. This is a story of a 242-meter container ship. I can't tell you its name. It was scrapped in December 2012. Scrapping is the end-of-life event for vessels, which means they die, go into razor blades. So after dying, 1 year exactly, it reappears at this small port in Mundra in India where you see.
Square there, yeah.
The square, exactly. Where it's too shallow for the original vessel to come in. So we have a dead identity reappearing after a year in a very small port, going onwards westwards into Iran-Fujairah border, lingering there, probably transshipping
off of
something.
Iran, so someone came alongside there.
Exactly,
yeah.
And then going southwards to the great vacation site of Busaso in Somalia. I recommend it for you for the next summer vacation. And from there, pick up some tan there. And from there, going onwards to Oman and disappears forever. And all that happens under the nose of 15 NATO warships that are securing the Gulf of Aden.
And only you guys know that this ship is actually bad guys.
Me and right now, 16,000 of my best friends.
Got it. All right, let's look at a live shot of your system.
Sure.
And give us a sense of what this looks like live.
Okay, so what you see right now on the screen is live.
So this is live. We're looking at the...
this is the Persian Gulf. What you see here, the blue squares in the background are the good guys, the Carnival cruises of the world. The red squares are vessels we flag as suspicious. And this is a story of a real vessel that, like all of the vessels in the world, we constructed its profile. We know for the last 4 years, our data platform knows what it's doing, what it's carrying, from routes working, everything. And it's actually exporting oil from Iran all the way to Syria and back.
So you have people staring at screens like air traffic controllers?
We don't have to. We have algorithms. We took 25 years of shipping economics research, poured it into data sciences, and have algorithms building ship profiles, flagging singular vessels activities, but also trends.
So who else besides security would want to use data like this?
So I'm sure that, remember we talked about the 90% of the world's trade transport through sea? So I'm sure there's a lot of people right now in the crowd which look at the growth of China, for example. Now, one of the problems is that China is measuring its own growth. What we're able to do, through measuring shipping and cargo movement into China, we measure the raw materials coming into China, providing a lead indicator for its growth. Another example, we all heard about the roller coaster of oil prices, right? Up, down, all that. So you see right now on the screen our measurement of what's called floating storages. When the price of oil goes down, people stock it up so they can sell when it's high. So if on end of November you would have gone to Bloomberg or Reuters or all these best practices, and you would have asked how many floating storages are in the Persian Gulf, this would have been the answer, 7.3 million barrels. But actually, because we developed this technology originally for intelligence, we know that they're not 6 but 21, and not 7 but 33 million barrels. That means everybody in the world at the same time taking decisions on oil would have missed $2 billion worth of oil.
So hedge funds, traders, et cetera. What's your own background, Ami? How did you come to this?
I started being an entrepreneur when I was 15. I think my mom is to blame.
Your mom gets credit, not blame, but go ahead.
Totally. She grew me, educated me to do something meaningful with my life. So I started being an entrepreneur when I was 16, established a Jewish Arab Community Center, which is still working until today. Then continued onwards to establish another NGO in Israel, and then was a naval officer. for 7 years, like my other co-founder. And after 7 years in the Navy, we left and decided we want to do something meaningful, which can do something transformational to the world, make a big change. And that's connecting technology and the seas to something which can change how all of us use maritime data.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ami, Daniel, and Windward.
Thanks.
Our next technology is both mind-blowingly cool, as well as something that very shortly any one of us can own and use at work, home, or school. Please welcome to the stage Rami Param, the CEO and founder of MUV Interactive.
Hey, Brian.
Welcome
Great
to
to
AIPAC,
be
Rami.
here.
So I'm sure you get this question a lot. What is that on your finger?
We call it bird.
Bird. People show me the bird a lot when I'm driving.
So that's a different, much friendlier bird. Actually, that's a new generation of interface between us and our machines. This is really a Bluetooth-connected device packed with technology, and it can actually sense everything your fingers are doing in space.
So what do you mean sensing your fingers in space?
So we can sense you on different levels. First of all, we know exactly where you are within the room. We know what you're touching. We know your proximity to certain objects. We know where you're pointing at. We can sense your hand posture, your hand gestures, literally anything.
Okay. Let's just show this to everybody, because I want to see how this works,
With
too.
pleasure.
I think on the back wall, we're able to put a projection, and let's see how the bird works.
So here we're projecting my regular laptop on this screen, and now that's a 3D animated model, and all I have to do is just lift my hand, and then I can manipulate this content from thin air, watching it from different directions. Now, in addition, because we know exactly where you are, if I want to zoom in or out to the screen, all I have to do is just pinch the object and pull it towards me or push it away from me using our depth sensing to interact with the content.
Wow.
You like it?
I like it.
It only gets better. So this one is an electronic magazine.
Okay.
And now I can really use my hand gesture here to flip the pages of the book, and you can see it's really like I'm touching the pages themselves. It's like grabbing this paper from a distance and moving it around. Now, wait here, I want to show you something.
You're leaving me?
No, Brian, I will never leave you. So remember I told you we can know what you're touching?
Okay.
So we can actually take any surface, including our tables, our walls, our kitchen drawers, including this fabric, and just turn it into one huge touchscreen. Now, this is not a touchscreen. This is just a regular fabric, and I'm using my hands here to manipulate those content using multi-touch interaction from thin air, supported from any point around this room.
This is like Tom Cruise in Minority Report. You're using two of them right now.
Sorry?
You're using two of them at once.
Yeah, I'm using two.
So you can use more than once?
Yeah, it's like Tom Cruise, but only this is reality. This is not Hollywood production studios.
So can multiple people in a room use them?
So that's an important point, because we're not supporting only one person controlling the screen. We're supporting up to 10 users scattered around the room, controlling the same shared screen together. So just like Facebook socialized our private networking life, we are socializing our day-to-day interactive scenarios. So imagine business presentation or collaboration sessions. Imagine designers, architects, engineers thinking and creating together. Imagine teachers engaging students from their seats to interact with the content together with them to create a whole new learning experience. And imagine kids running around playing with the same screen as opposed to each and every one stuck in his head in his own smartphone.
How does something that small sense all these things?
So actually, it's a result of hard work for 4 years. We've actually been able to converge 10 different sensing technology into this small device. It took us lots of time, and we were working with the best engineers Israel has to offer. But eventually, we are using here capacitive sensing together with optic sensing and inertial sensing, acoustic and proximity sensors, and others. And those sensors send us tens of thousands of numbers every second. And those numbers tell us a story about what you're doing.
And how close to market is this?
We just entered mass production a month ago, and we're going to start shipping orders 3 months from now.
How much?
How much? That's the question, yeah. So we're launching it for a couple $100, which is already way more affordable than any other solution out there, and we're working to bring it down dramatically for the masses.
And where did you get this idea from in the first place?
So it was just a regular night 4 years ago. My brother and I were watching a TED Talk. We have this kind of habit. And I remember one of the topics was so interesting and futuristic, but the presenter was using a regular clicker to go through boring slides. And I was thinking, no way, that's the best idea humanity came up with for interacting with content. And surely we can do so much better. So a month after, I quit my job and founded MUV.
So most of us would look at a TED Talk and be impressed. You looked at a TED Talk and said, this is lame, I can do better. That's very Israeli of you.
Yeah, well, you know.
Right?
Yeah, I think it has lots to do with the Israeli culture. You see, while other countries might be emphasizing following the rules or respecting authority, we are emphasizing challenging authority. We are raising kids that once they see a situation or a device, they immediately think, I can do it better, and how can I do it better? You know, just like Ben-Gurion said, I'm the prime minister of 4 million prime ministers. I think this sentence reflects perfectly what's going on in my country. And And if I may add, personally, on a personal level, that I think this kind of creativity helped building this country in its early days, and I think that modern pioneers are entrepreneurs, just like us.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rami Parham of Move, MUV Interactive.
Thank you.
Now you're going to meet one of the most remarkable entrepreneurs I've ever met. Please welcome to the AIPAC stage, Yael Wiesel of Zekit. Welcome, Yael.
Hey, Brian.
So, at the age of 18, the President of Israel gave you an award as one of the 3 outstanding young people in all of Israel. You then went into the Air Force Officers Academy with the highest score of anyone, men or male or female. You then revolutionized a defense contractor, and you just got an award as one of the top 3 entrepreneurs in the whole country. I have a feeling you're onto something. So let's go right to it. What is Zekit?
What is Zekit? So, Zekit is 3 engineers taking the online shopping experience into the next level. We develop a platform that enables you and everyone to upload just a single picture and see yourself wearing all the clothes sold online today.
That's okay. How did you even get this idea?
I used to be a microprocessor engineer in LB Systems, and I've developed just regular system for airplanes and cockpits, but I had a hobby. I really love radar technologies.
Everyone should have a hobby. Radar is a good hobby.
So I had an idea to take a single picture of radar and understand the topography of the area from just this 2D picture and create a 3D understanding of the area. And this idea became a huge project in LB Systems. And after a while, I thought that this technology can really create a new way to the e-commerce, as we can create this topography or understand the topography of the human body from just a single 2D picture.
Very cool. Well, you know what? Let's see what Zekit is. Let's see it.
Okay. So all you need to do is just take a single picture of yourself from your mobile device.
Okay, Lauren, why don't we put Yael's laptop up there? So this is a picture that Yael took of me this afternoon with her smartphone.
That's right. And you have to smile, like you did. And then a chain of more than 30 image processing algorithms create automatic measurements of your body, estimate your volume, and divide your body into more than 80 segments. After this process, or the same process, works on every product that is sold online. We only need the regular public picture of every item. We divide the item into the same equivalent 80 segments, and that's how we can reconstruct every item on your body. So my question to you, do you have any online store you can think about?
I don't do a lot of online clothes shopping, but let's do eBay.
Okay, let's go to eBay. Do you know eBay?
I know eBay.
Okay.
Oh, does the audience know eBay?
Yeah.
I think they know eBay.
Okay. So, how is this hoodie?
I got to get a hoodie.
Okay, let's try it out. Take medium.
So it's
Try
also
it.
giving me a size recommendation, and it's showing me what I look like by mapping the clothes onto my body.
That's right.
Okay.
It'll tell you which size is the most
What
recommended.
about the other hoodie? Okay.
And you can share it with friends, of course, if you want to consult your wife.
I'm in.
Extra large. Yeah.
What are you laughing at? I like that on me. All right, try the jacket.
Okay, let's try this one first. All right.
All right. I'll take the audience reaction to me, and that's not my look.
Hey, look what we have here.
What color is that dress?
I would vote for blue, but let's try it on your. Oh my.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, the software's working a little too well.
So, as a matter of fact, we can show every item on every marketplace, you name it, on your own picture.
So I can go to anyone once I'm part of your system, and I can see how anything looks on me before I even buy it.
That's right.
And what made you want to even do the clothing market?
So it's a huge, huge business. It's $5 trillion business annually, globally, and only 5% of it is from online purchases. So we took our experience from the deep image processing world and thought for once and for all to solve this huge challenge and bring it to the world.
So the same ideas that you use to turn 2D radar into 3D radar, you're using to map clothing to people.
That's right.
So Yael is extremely modest about her military accomplishments, so she didn't want to talk about it, so I'm going to tell you that you're looking at one of the most significant glass ceiling breakers in the history of Israel's Air Force. Yael was the first woman admitted to a combat support unit in the Israel Air Force, the first woman to be able to fly, and each time she broke the glass ceiling and then others followed her, the first woman to be able to fly combat missions in the Israel Air Force. She was, then became part of a team to open up more. When Yael went into Israel's Air Force, 70% of the jobs were open to women. When she left, largely because of her work, every single job in the Air Force except for one was open to women. Which leads me to ask you, Yael, at every stage of your life, in school, in the Air Force, at Elbit, and now against the global fashion world, you've been a pioneer, you've been driven, and you've often gone against the grain. What drives you?
I believe that my personal success is in a way Israel's success. And I feel like when you know that what you do may have a huge impact on your country and the people you love, you're 100% motivated to do big things, to take large risks, and do revolutions. And I have a personal dream that maybe one day on this project, maybe other project, there will be a headline saying another huge Israeli success.
Well, there's 16,000 people behind you and ready to try on hoodies. Ladies and gentlemen, Yael Wiesel of Zekit. Our next innovator is bringing us a consumer device that is going to allow us to know more about our physical world than we ever have before. Please welcome Dror Sharon of SIO.
Hi, Brian.
Welcome to AIPAC, Dror.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so what is the mission of SIO?
So we believe that while the technology at our fingertips is amazingly powerful, can let you navigate anywhere in the world, book that favorite restaurant in Washington tonight, or if you hear a tune on the radio, let you instantly know which one to order on iTunes. When it comes to the actual physical stuff around us, you're not sure or just don't know, well, you're totally on your own, and we wanted to solve that problem.
Okay, so how does it work? How's my phone going to tell me all that?
Well, so we invented SIO, which is this little device, and it's the world's first pocketable molecular sensor.
All right, you lost me at molecular. What does it do?
So this scans the molecular fingerprints of materials. It sends it to our cloud for analysis and sends the result instantly to your smartphone.
So you're bouncing light off of things?
Right, so we took the science of spectroscopy, which is light-matter interaction, that is used in labs across the world thousands of times a day in industries such as pharmaceuticals, food, petrochemicals, cosmetic healthcare, miniaturized it and made it accessible to all of us.
All right, let's see it work. Let's come
Sure.
over here. And we have here apples.
Yep. So we're going to take this device.
So you're bouncing light off of an apple.
Point it at the apple. And then, as you can see...
Let's put George's phone up there.
Yep, so it's analyzing, send it to the cloud for analysis. And as you can see, this is about 30 calories per 100 grams, or about, what does it say? Yep, 30 calories. So let's now do the red one.
Okay, I'll do the red one.
And this is instantaneously in real time.
Okay.
So now, again, it's analyzing. And this is 50% sweeter. So actually, there are more calories in this apple. And in real time, you could actually go to the supermarket. If you're on a diet, you can actually know what you're intaking into your body right now.
And you can do it with smoothies, other things as well?
Yep, definitely. Any type of food that we're going to have in our database.
What else can you show me?
Well, so we're going to have this little light box. And we are going to take out 2 pills. Both of them contain the same active pharmaceutical ingredient.
Okay.
We're going to drop the pill in here. Put the SIO in there.
And it's communicating by Bluetooth with your phone?
Exactly. It takes it on,
okay.
and then it analyzes it, and we're going to see what pill I dropped right now into the light box. So it analyzes it, sends it to the cloud for analysis, and let's see.
Looks like we froze there.
Oh, one
no,
second. So while we're doing this, so this is, for example, Advil. So this is the
brand name Advil.
Yeah, so this is brand name Advil. So in real time, we're able to analyze the chemical properties of this specific pill that we just bought at CVS. Let's take another one.
Okay.
Okay, so, sometimes you get the non-branded, the generic ones. You want to save a buck, right? So let's see if this is really the one. So we're going to press a button.
Okay.
Analyzes it in real time. And, yep, this is
generic.
A generic one that we just got at Walmart. So this little device can tell you what's inside the physical world around you that you otherwise wouldn't be able to tell.
So obviously, if I have ibuprofen in a bottle, I may know. But what if a woman goes to a bar and scans her drink that someone brings her?
So currently, we don't have it in the database. We can envision a future where she would go to the bar, scan that drink, and it will give her a big alert. Hey, watch out. This one is not for you.
So every time someone scans something, you're collecting these fingerprints and you're building a physical database of the world.
Correct. We're on a mission to build the world's largest database of fingerprints of our physical world, basically building Google for your physical world in real time.
And how much will this retail for?
So right now, you can buy it for $250 online on our store at consumerphysics.com. We're going to deliver it in a few months.
And where did the idea even come from?
Well, so these big devices cost $20,000, right? And when you're in Israel, we've got a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, and you watch that fruit and vegetable, you're going to eat it in about a minute or two, and you think to yourself, what if I could know more about this? How can I do it? So this is where it came about. We said, okay, let's solve this problem.
And why did this come up in Israel, not somewhere else in the world?
Well, I think Israel is uniquely, in our case, uniquely suited to solve these type of multidisciplinary problems. In essence, we're enjoying the diseconomies of scale, which means we enjoy the fact that Israel is a very small country.
The smallness of the country.
Yeah.
So just give me very briefly, what's next for SIO? Where does it go?
So with us, we think of taking this little sensor that's embedded right there, and we're going to take it into every smartphone, wearable device, an internet-connected device, anywhere in your home and in businesses, anywhere where molecular sensing makes sense.
So this will be embedded in my phone. I can read my food and test things out in the coming future.
10 years from now, my daughter will not even think twice about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dror Sharon and SIO.
Thanks, Ron.
For our final innovation, we have someone who's come up with a game-changing idea that is going to revolutionize and is revolutionizing emergency medical care. All right, he's been delayed getting to us. He stopped to help someone. On his way to the stage, Lauren. Ladies and gentlemen, Ali Bir of United Hatzalah. This is like a Jewish version of the Hell's Angels. You were born to be mild. All right, Ali, welcome to AIPAC's policy conference. You know how to make an entrance, my friend.
That's how we come.
All right, so, United Hatzalah, I can barely pronounce it. What is it?
So United Hatzalah, Hatzalah means save in Hebrew, rescue. And this baby here saves lives every single day.
So, but it's not just a motorcycle that you've created. It's bigger than that.
It's a concept. It's not only a motorcycle. An ambicycle, actually, is a two-wheel ambulance that goes in between traffic, but that's only one part of a whole concept.
So what's the idea here?
Idea is taking people from all backgrounds, like a network of people, regular people like you and me, training them like EMTs, giving them the right equipment to save people's lives. And instead of waiting for an ambulance, you could go and save your neighbor who's having a heart attack now.
And who's getting trained? What kind of people are getting trained?
We train people in Israel from all backgrounds. We have Jews and Muslims. We have Christians and Druze. We even have Bedouin women. We have men and women saving lives every single day from all backgrounds. That's why we get there so quick.
Okay, so you give me all this training, and then what do I do next? What happens then?
So we give you all the training. You have 6 months training, twice a week in the evening because you're a volunteer. You finish the training, we give you this medical bag that's inside this box. We give you either in your car, in your own personal car. We also give you an app on your phone. That app alerts you of any emergency happening around you. And by having that network of thousands of people like you responding to emergency calls, we knock down response times in hundreds of %. We're down to almost 3 minutes now.
And how long does it take an ambulance usually?
An ambulance would take, every country is different, but about, let's say, 8 to 12 minutes. It's way too much for someone who's choking or a little baby not breathing. We want to get there. Our goal in United Hatzalah is to get there within 90 seconds.
And so you have...
So this is actually on my app.
Yeah.
It alerted me that something is happening here in Washington. So I'll be here if it would be a real emergency. Even so, it's like the greatest opportunity to speak in AIPAC. I would leave you right now and run to save this person's life who's in trouble.
So your system knows, because we have smartphones, where we are, and it picks the closest person or persons?
What it does is, it's like Uber. So it picks out the closest 5 volunteers who are closest. And they come from all backgrounds. I can have a fisherman, I can have a lawyer, or I can have a taxi driver. They all have this app and have the medical equipment. So they stop everything they do and run to save people's lives. And it's amazing. We respond to over 700 calls a day now.
And you're integrated in the emergency system. When people call the emergency number, you're dispatched. And then you hand off to the ambulance when they arrive.
We're not there to replace the emergency system. We actually want to fill up the gap between an emergency happening until they show up. So sometimes when they show up, it's too late. More people die waiting for an ambulance than more in terror together. Our role in United Hatzalah is to get people like us to save lives while the ambulance is stuck in traffic.
So give me some statistics on your work.
So last year we started 2015. We didn't know, 14, we didn't know we were going to have a war. We treated 245,000 people as volunteers.
Wow. And how many life-saving situations do you think?
27,000 of them were children. And 25% of these people we treated were in life-threatening situations that we made a difference, that we helped save.
Amazing. And I understand you've exported this to some other countries.
Well, you know, the good word of Israel with innovations goes around, and we got requests from all around the world. In South America, we're in Brazil and Panama, now in Argentina and Mexico and other countries. We're going to even India and Rwanda. So many countries around the world want to have the concept of volunteers responding with this bike, with this ambicycle, or with their own cars and saving lives. So we're helping them get to this goal.
I heard a list of countries. Are we chopped liver here?
Well, I want to tell you something. You're not chopped liver. You don't look like one. But I'm going to tell you that our goal in United Hatzalah is to give this beautiful public gift to this world. And we want to go to America, to cities like any city, Chicago. But now, while we're talking now, in Jersey City, a group of 200 volunteers are recruiting and getting training. And God willing, in June or July, we're going to have them all ready to save lives in Jersey City under United Rescue, because they can't say the word Hatzalah there.
So if I call 911 in New Jersey this summer, the first responder I'm going to get is one of your people.
You're going to get a nice-looking guy like me, or a woman not like me, but with this jacket, this orange vest, with this symbol, I'm very proud of this symbol, made in Israel. They're going to wear it. 200 people from Jersey City are going to wear this vest and respond to emergency calls within less than 2 minutes.
So, Ellie, why you? Where did this come from?
Well, I grew up in Jerusalem. My parents made Aliyah in 1969. I grew up in Beit Vegan. And when I was 6 years old, I passed by a bus stop coming back from school on a Friday afternoon. Right in front of my eyes, an Egged bus passed by, a number 6 bus, and it blew up right in front of my eyes. I was only 6. My brother was 11. And we saw this. We got so scared. People were yelling for help. The bus was on fire. I remember an old man yelling for help to help him get up. But we got so scared, we left him on the floor and we ran away. And that affected my life. So when I grew up and I was a teenager, I decided I want to become a volunteer in an ambulance and save lives. So I was only 15 years old, and I just joined an ambulance. And I saw being in an ambulance, it's a great feeling. You help so many people when you're in an ambulance. You're actually doing God's work. But I wanted to save a life. And for a year and a half, I volunteered in an ambulance in Jerusalem. And I never got even one life to save. I helped many people, but when someone was not breathing and he had no pulse, never saw him wake up again. And I realized that gap between the emergency call happening until the ambulance arriving with me inside is too long. So I decided to start this group of volunteers. We were 15 people, a bunch of kids. We were Meshuggahs. We wanted to save lives, and that was our crazy. We wanted to be a volunteer and save lives. So we started this group, and we didn't have the information about the calls coming in. So we decided to use an amazing Israeli innovation. I don't know if you guys heard of it, called chutzpah.
I think you guys invented it, actually.
Yeah, we have something in it. So we took this, we decided to, in order to get the emergency calls from the ambulance, they didn't want to share it with us. The unions didn't want to share it with us. So we bought these scanners, these police scanners. That's why Israelis are so successful, because of this chutzpah. We bought these police scanners and we started listening to them. That week, I was listening into the scanner. I was only 16 and a half years old. I heard a car accident happening around the block where my father's bookstore was. And I ran out of the bookstore. I had no medical equipment on me, but I knew that I could save a life. And this person was on the floor. He was 70 years old. I saw him bleeding literally from his neck and gushing blood. And someone said, a relative said he's on Coumadine. And I knew that if I don't stop his bleeding within 2 minutes, he's going to be dead. I took off my yarmulke off my head. And I folded my yarmulke like this, to 4. And I put a lot of pressure on this person's neck, literally pushing it in to stop his bleeding. I waited for about 20, 25 minutes. The ambulance arrived. It looked like 3 hours to me, because I was just worried about this person. He was still breathing, but he was unconscious. When the ambulance took him, they put him on the stretcher, I realized his hand fell like this, and he had a number here. I was hoping this person would be alive. 2 days later, I got a phone call from his son saying, "Are you the kid that treated my father?" I said, "Yes." I was sure he was going to say it's a funeral. He said, "My father woke up in the hospital. He would like to thank you personally for saving his life."
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tikkun Olam. This is healing and saving the world. Israel is a blessing to the world. As pro-Israel advocates, we are blessed to have great stories to tell. Let's go out and tell them.
Brian, I want you to be a volunteer.
I'm going to be. They can.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our evening session. Please be in line for security by 7 a.m. tomorrow morning in order to see the Prime Minister. The village will open at 6 a.m. Please be patient when exiting the room tonight. Thank you and enjoy your night.
ועכשיו הלב נצבע